Hi, I'm Sheri Bay. I'm a reference librarian here at Lincoln Library, the public library of Springfield, Illinois. Today we will be learning how to make a macrame rainbow wall hanging. The supplies you are going to need is some macrame rope, some floral wire, Scotch tape, yarn, a darning needle, wire cutters, and scissors. To begin with, we're going to use 1/2 inch macrame rope. And what you'll want to do is shape it in the shape of a rainbow, starting with your largest or longest strand, and you're going to want to measure that out. And make sure that you leave about 1 to 2 inches of rope. That's where the tape comes in handy. You're going to want to tape the edges. Stops it from unraveling, but also it kind of gives you a measurement of how much of the fray you're going to want at the bottom of the rope or at the bottom of the rainbow. I'm using 4 different colors of yarn. You can use as many as you want. You can use 2 colors, you can use 3. So I'm going to want to measure out 4 pieces of rope, but they are going to be gradually getting smaller as you go in to the middle of the rainbow. To make measuring your rope easier, you just coil it in itself so it looks like a little rainbow. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut here so that all of your pieces of rope are measured correctly. So after you get done cutting, this is what it'll look like. And you'll see the edges of the rainbow or the edges of the rope is starting to fray, and that's where your Scotch tape is going to come in handy. Well, like this one here, you're going to Scotch tape the very ends. This is going to help you know when to stop or where to start your yarn. And then it'll also protect the rope from fraying mid-project. So what you'll want to do is you'll take just a piece of Scotch tape and you'll just wrap it around the edge of the rope here, or the end of the rope. And you can do as much or as little as you want. At the end of the project, we are going to take the tape off and it'll fray out and it'll look sort of like a cloud at the end of your rainbow. I'm going to do 2 pieces stacked on one another. So it's roughly about 1.5 inches of the rope that is going to be frayed at the end there. So I'm going to do that to every strand of my rope. Once you have all the tape on your edges, the next thing you're going to want to do is measure out your floral wire. I have the pre-cut wire, but it is long, so I'm probably going to have to cut it down on some of my rope strands. Luckily, this is the perfect size. Using the tape as kind of a measuring tool, you are going to want to leave about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of the rope without the wire. So I am going to actually trim up this one. So you'll see I have my rope and I've got my wire here. And so I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rope without wiring on the edges here. And again, like I said, that's kind of where the tape comes in handy. What I'm going to do is weave. I'm going to insert my wire, since it's sturdy enough. I'm going to actually enter it into the bottom of my rope, and I'm going to weave it through the rope so that it's concealed. There are some videos out there that you just line it up along your rope and then you use the yarn to cover it up. However, I find this method to just be a little bit cleaner and easier for you to just wrap the yarn around the rope without worrying about hiding the wire. So you just kind of want to snake it in there so that's inside the braided or the twisted rope. Okay. You'll see the ends dangle a little bit because there's no wire there. And this way the wire helps you maintain a shape. So what you're going to want to do is try to get that rainbow shape. You can do a more arched rainbow. You can do a wider angled rainbow. It's really up to you what your preference is. So you're going to do that with each of your strands of rope. Okay. So once you've got all of your wires in your rope, you'll want to try to maintain the shape that you're looking for your rainbow, and try to keep your ropes in order because they are just slightly smaller than the next, so it could be easy to kind of get them confused. So what you'll want to do after you've got all your wire in there is choose your yarn. Like I said, I'm using 4 different colors. I'm going to start with the pink yarn first. You can use any color combination you like. You can use it in any order you like. You can use different textures of yarn. This one's got kind of a different texture than a regular yarn, and then I've also got a thicker woolly yarn that I'm going to use. The different textures just kind of gives it a little bit more dimension and just makes it a little bit different. You don't have to do that. You can stick with just using all one type of yarn. That is completely up to you. You'll take your biggest piece of rope, and you're going to take your biggest piece of rope and your yarn, and you're going to use that Scotch tape as guidance. And what you'll want to do is just make a simple knot to attach your yarn to your rope. And then the next part's pretty simple. You just wrap your yarn. And you'll take that little tail and you'll just wrap the yarn right around it and keep that tucked in. You'll want to keep your yarn pretty tight so it doesn't unravel and move around. This will lengthen the size of your rope a little bit. Try to make sure that none of the rope shows through your yarn as you wrap it around. And you'll just want to do this through the whole length of the rope. And once you've got the yarn wrapped all around your rope and you stopped so that you have about the same sizing of rope to fray at the end, you're going to want to knot this yarn. So you're going to want to leave kind of a longer tail. We will be weaving or threading this yarn into your next layer. Okay, so at the end here, you're going to want to make a knot with your rope or with your yarn. I'm just going to want to tie that off. Okay. So set that one to the side and move on to your next one. Just want to tie your yarn with a knot to begin with at the top of that Scotch tape marker. Make a knot there. And then start wrapping with your yarn. You'll want to be pretty consistent with your strands when you go around your rope so you don't get any bulky parts. You'll want to do one loop right after another. Just try to keep everything as consistent as possible. And like I said, wrapping this yarn around the rope will elongate your rope a little bit more, so you'll get a little bit bigger of an arch. But that's no problem. We can always reshape as we go. That's what's the great thing about using the floral wire. It also helps keeping your rope sturdy enough that you can wrap your yarn around it. When you get done with your second one, just kind of keep it in line with the first, and then just keep laying that to the side and move on to your next one. Now, once I'm done with all of them, I'm just going to shape them again just to make sure that the ends match up with one another. And if they're a little off, they're a little off. You can always move the yarn up a little bit, kind of scrunch it like this to give more length here. Just kind of move it up a little bit if you need to. Now, what we'll do next is we'll take our darning needle. I'm going to take a large one because some of my yarn is thick. And I'm going to start with the middle two. Now what we'll do, I'm going to take the second to smallest layer, this brown one, and I'm going to line up my darning needle here, just a little bit through. Okay. So I'm basically going to sew these two together. I'm going to take my darning needle with the second layer's yarn, and what I'll do is I'll just weave it in a couple strands of my yellow yarn, or the yarn in the smallest layer, and pull it through. Make sure the yarn's all fine. And then I'll go back over to the brown and I'll go in 2 or 3 loops of the yarn on that side and just sew it in there. Make sure that this stays on there. And I'm going to do this all the way around, and that's going to keep your 2 layers together. I've seen some videos online that uses a hot glue gun to hot glue the layers together. You can also do that. This is how I've done it, and it works really well on keeping your layers together. The downside to doing this is one side of your rainbow you'll be able to see the stitching, but if it's a wall hanging, you're going to hang it against the wall. I don't see a problem with that. If you were making maybe something that's going to hang and you'll see both sides of the rainbow, you may want to do the hot glue gun to get your different layers to stay together. It's entirely up to you and what you feel comfortable with. So once you're done with that, this is what the back will look like. You'll just see some of the little stitching through here. But what we'll want to do once we are done sewing our 2 parts together, because we don't want this long tail, is you'll just pull it up through here as far as you want to go. You see what I did here is I just took my darning needle and I went right up the side here, just about 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to cut it off. And like I said, this is going to be the back side of my wall hanging, so you're not even going to be able to see the stitching or anything in the back. It'll just look like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing with this one, and I'm going to attach it to the brown middle one here. And then what I'll do after that is I'll do my last layer and I will attach that to the yellow one, and then they'll all be attached. Okay, and again, you'll see the back. You can see the stitching a little bit more with the white compared to the dark, the brown. But like I said, this is going to be on the wall, so nobody's going to be able to see that. They'll just see this part of it. Okay, I'm going to start on my last layer. And this one, I'm just going to do the same thing I've been doing, but I'm going to attach it to this white one. We have this long part here of this yellow one. We're not going to do any sewing with that one. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut it down a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to take my darning needle and I'm just going to sew this end up into my yellow to hide it so we don't have a little tail of yarn. Okay, and I'm just going to cut it off just like that. See? Okay, now I'm going to start on my last layer. So after you're done with all your layers, I'm going to do your shape, and I'll show you a couple things. So because I did not weave or wrap this rope as tight with my pink layer, you'll see it didn't elongate very much. The other ones, once you get the yarn going really tight, it'll elongate your rope. But this one I did not tie as tight, so my rope's a little bit shorter here. And so was my yarn. What I could do is just shorten all of the rope so it's the same size, but I am going to go ahead and just leave that. But I did want to show you when you're doing your stitches in the back, you don't have to do them really close together, but you also don't want to do them too far. And I'll show you, if you do them too far, you get a little bit too much space. So you'll see up here there's a little too much space. You can see a little bit through there. No harm, no foul, but to get just a tighter rainbow, you'll want to do closer stitches in the back here, attaching them to one another. Okay, so our next step is to take off our tape from the edges here. And what we're going to do after that is fray the bottom of our ropes. And what that does is kind of creates maybe a little element of like some clouds. Okay, so I got all of the tape off my rope. So what I'm going to do is just unbraid or untwist, depending on what kind of rope you got. I'm just going to kind of unravel it and make it look stringy. Okay. And I'm going to kind of give it a better shape here, just kind of get it evened out here, and there's your macrame rainbow. To attach something to hang it with, you can just take your darning needle and any color of yarn here that you want, or some more rope, a string, and just in the back where the stitches are, you can just take your darning needle and thread through a few just in the middle there, and pull your yarn through, and take your ends and tie a little knot in there. Cut off the excess there, and you have your macrame rainbow wall hanging. I would love to see your end product. So if you follow along and you make your own macrame rainbow, I would love to see pictures of it. We're on Instagram now. Our @ is Lincoln Library Springfield. If you don't follow us, hop on there and follow us. We're also on Facebook. Please send us a picture. I would love to see what you did today. And I would love to see the colors that you choose. You can do different sizes. You don't have to do a large one. You can do a small one. You can do more layers than just 4 colors. You can just do 3 colors. It's really up to you. You can do bright colors. You can do fall colors. I mean, there's just a lot of possibility with what you can do with something like this, and it always turns out just really cute. So again, our Instagram is @Lincoln Library Springfield. Hop on there, give us a follow, send us a picture, direct message a picture, and I can repost it on our Instagram. So thank you for joining me today. Thanks again for joining me. Have a good day.